Underneath the title for the form, you must fill in your full legal name in the space provided. In Section 1 of the UCCJEA Affidavit form, you must fill in the number of minor children subject to this proceeding. If you have more than one minor child subject to this proceeding, you will be able to fill in information about the additional children in the spaces provided. The UCCJEA form provides space for you to indicate to the court the following true information for up to 3 minor children that are subject to this proceeding. If you have more than 3 minor children who are subject to this proceeding, you must fill in the information about those additional children on additional pages and make sure to add or include those additional pages to this form when you complete and file this form with the clerk of court. In the space provided, you must indicate the following information that is true about child number 1. First, you must fill in the child's full legal name, followed by their place of birth, their date of birth, and their sex in the spaces provided. In the series of boxes that are provided for child number 1, you must fill out the child's residence or residences for the past 5 years. If the child is under the age of 5, you must fill out the child's residences going back to their date of birth. You will start with the most recent residence or residences of the child, indicate when they began living at that residence through the present in the space provided. You must then state the address where the child lived during that period of time, including city and state, in the space provided. To the right of that box, you must indicate the name and present address of each person that the child lived with during that period of time. And you must indicate the relationship that that person who the child lived with, the relationship that that person has to the child at present. If at the time of filling out this form, the minor child spends time in multiple residences, for example, at the home of their mother and the home of their father, depending on the day of the week, it is important to fill out a second row of boxes for the other parent, so the court is aware of both addresses where the child currently resides. If either parent had moved in the past from a different residence in the past 5 years, it is important to indicate that address as well, so the court can be aware of all the places that the child has lived with for the past 5 years for purposes of determining whether this court is the best court to determine issues of child custody. If, for example, the minor child resided outside of the state of Florida for a significant period of time in the past 5 years, there could be a question of whether a Florida court is the most appropriate court to determine issues of child custody. If you need to fill out more spaces because there are more residences that the child has lived in for the past 5 years than spaces provided, make sure to put those residences and all the information that is required on an additional page and ensure that that additional page is attached to this form at the time that you file this form with the court. If you are the petitioner in an injunction for protection against domestic violence case, and you have filed a request for confidential filing of address, which is Florida Supreme Court approved Family Law Form 12.980H, you should write confidential in any space on this form, including additional pages. That would require you to enter the address where you are currently living. Once you have completely filled out all of the information that is true about child number 1, move on to the next section to fill out the same information about child number 2. And if need be, do the same for the section provided that allows you to fill out the following information about child number 3. Once you have completely filled out all of the information that is applicable in your case for all of the children that are subject to this proceeding, then you are ready to move on to section number 2 of the UCCJEA affidavit.